Narnia. Nerds in Paradise.
As the Diggy Beat team reminisced over coffee by the beautiful Caribbean Sea one morning, Frits van Dam complained that what he missed most about Holland was not being able to go to the park to feed the ducks and geese. Well, it's okay here, but throwing bread to them parrots just ain't the same. Apart from anything, they complain if the bread isn't fresh enough. Yeah, but the worst thing about feeding ducks and geese and things is it's always just a few pushy ones what gets all the food. And the slow, kind of nervy ones hardly ever gets anything to eat at all, said Larry. Well, what it really needs is a device to share the food equally amongst all the birds. Then Nigel Nickleby came up with a brilliant idea. A fowl feeder. We could use the equivalent of facial recognition and pick out which ducks got what to eat. Then those that didn't get enough to eat would get extra food shot at them, while the others get less. Well, that's a very egalitarian fowl feeder if you ask me, enthused Connor O'Connor. So they decided that this would be a wonderful product for the general consumer market, which they could sell wherever there were ducks and geese. Well, it's all very well, but the only problem is I haven't seen any ducks or any geese or anything like that on this island, said the ever negative Frits van Dam. And you can't produce a machine without guinea pigs. Or guinea fowl, chimed in Connor. Right, so we'll just have to get ourselves some ducks or some geese, said Nigel, taking the initiative as always. Oh yeah. Hey, listen. We can use them as watchdogs. Me uncle, he had this farm with geese on it, and they kicked up such a rumpus that if anyone or anything got near, they'd go bananas, and everyone was scared stiff of them geese. Yeah, but the only problem is shipping them here alive in an airplane hold. You can't do that. They're messy, they're expensive to ship. Then someone came up with a brilliant idea. Why don't we start from scratch and get them shipped pre-packaged as eggs? They're small and don't need a lot of looking after. So digging deep on the internet, they found a farm near Miami in Florida, the nearest American airport, which guaranteed the best quality pre-fertilized goose eggs with superior low shipping prices. Well, the website, to be honest, looked a little bit shady, but hey, money is money. So they ordered a round dozen, that's 12 to you, of best quality goose eggs. As lead engineer of the project, Paine got the job of looking after the geese chicks when they had hatched, making sure they were all accounted for and giving them something to eat. Because everyone assumed that Page, being from New Zealand, where there are lots and lots of domestic creatures and not many humans, they believed that she would know how to look after all kinds of baby animals and things. Better than someone from Louisiana or Amsterdam anyway, said Page. So, on the day of their arrival, Page dutifully unpacked the eggs and laid them gently in her homemade incubator to keep them warm while they hatched. When she did, though, she noticed that one of the eggs was significantly smaller than all the others, and it was a slightly odd shape. Well, within a few weeks, 11 of the goose eggs dutifully hatched, but the smaller, odd-looking egg took significantly longer. It wasn't doing anything at all. So Page just left it alone to either hatch in its own good time or not at all. Well, after another couple of weeks with no obvious hatching activity, Page went to clear up the incubator and throw away the rogue egg, when she noticed that it had begun to go soft and kind of saggy. But it also seemed to be moving. It was still alive. So Paige squatted down and watched patiently, listening and talking to it, explaining that she knew exactly how it felt, being the odd one out. They can't stay in its shell forever, and one day have to come out and face the world. As she was explaining this, a small hole appeared in the end of the egg. Then something equally small and pointy, but certainly not a beak, appeared. Then the whole egg started to burst apart. That's jolly odd, thought Paige. The others cracked their shells open with their beaks, but this one doesn't even seem to have a beak at all, and is just kind of pushing its way out. What's even stranger is this doesn't look much like a goose chick at all. It's not got no matted feathers. This chick is all smooth and shiny. And as the creature gradually escaped its shell, Paige came to the sudden realization that this was not a fowl at all, but some kind of reptile. Then, as it uncoiled its little self, she realized that this was indeed a baby snake, looking up at her with something like pleading in its oversized little eyes. And under that stare, instead of recoiling in horror like any normal human being should, Paige experienced something totally out of character. She experienced the wonder of motherhood. Paige carefully lifted the little creature near to her face, with the little snake gazing deep into her eyes. I'll call you Little Joe. You're probably very hungry, Joe, so let's see what we can rustle up for you, right? And with that, a lifetime bond was formed between hard-nosed, hard-hearted Paige Paine and Little Joe the python. But while this wonderful bonding business was going on, the rest of the team were busy with the fowl feeder. The distribution of the feed was easy, working out the trajectory, range, weight and feed, etc., no problem. But the real problem was facial recognition. How do you tell one beak from another? So they forgot about beaks and just concentrated on bird markings. Spotting and analysing goose markings would indeed be a lot easier than their beaks. Unfortunately, it would be some months before the newly hatched chicks would be big enough to operate as potential targets for the feeding programme. So photos of a few different geese got printed and the pictures were stuck on sticks. Then, when the big day came, these pictures were stuck into the grassy area behind the resort. Being the boss, Nigel Nickleby took aim at the pictures of the geese stuck in the ground and proceeded to shoot food at them. Well, sure enough, each picture he actually hit got exactly the prescribed amount of bird food. The problem, though, was that Nigel was not actually very good with a gun, and each time he fired, the kickback from the feeder knocked him backwards and sent much of the bird food right up into the sky. And though it was much appreciated by passing parrots, this was not really the idea. So it was decided that because he was American, Fritz would be the one to shoot the gun, while Kees van Dorp, being the smaller and more agile of them all, got voted to be the one in charge of positioning the pictures. Then somebody had the brilliant idea of getting Kees to actually run around with the pictures, holding them up occasionally to represent a particular goose. A wonderful addition had been built into the fowl feeder, and that was an automatic trigger mechanism. Because basically, any time the fowl feeder's scope spotted a moving bird, it would shoot food at it. So Case now had the job of running around, crouching, and occasionally popping up to hold up a picture of a goose. And sure enough, each time he did, the feeder would realign itself and shoot a volley of birdseed at him. Occasionally, of course, Case himself got the full volley of feed. So he took to wearing a motorcycle helmet, face mask, and finally full body armour to protect himself.
Ouch.
After a while he got very good at ducking and weaving to avoid being hit by precision-aimed bird food.
Ouch, ouch.
His shrieks and complaints did not go unnoticed by the ever-vigilant people from Banania, for whom this bunch of weirdos had become an endless source of entertainment. Someone quickly picked up on what was going on, and after a very short while quite an audience stood by the hedge at the side of the property to watch the fun. Unfortunately, no gathering of any kind in Banania would be without its fair share of wicked Euphonian spies, the naughty neighbours, discreetly snapping photos of the latest automated weapon, no doubt developed for use against the brave heroes of the Euphonian armed forces. Well, because it was a bit heavy to carry around, especially when loaded with bird food, it was provided with an optional accessory, and that was a self-standing pedestal mount. The idea was that the fowl feeder would simply sit on top of the pedestal, and whenever the constantly scanning scope saw a goose, the feeder would swivel around and fire a very precisely aimed volley of birdseed at the lucky, if unsuspecting, fowl. Well, it would be some months before the newly hatched geese were ready to take part in the ongoing experiments, so the feeder was left outside on its pedestal to await their arrival. One evening, though, somebody neglected to switch off the feeder, and in the middle of that self-same night, the team were startled awake by a dull thudding, followed by terrified screaming coming from their test field. Looking out, they were just in time to see two frantic, furtive figures desperately scrambling their escape over the surrounding hedge, while being peppered with well-intentioned but precisely aimed and remarkably painful birdseed. That was Banania. Please subscribe via Apple Podcasts or your favourite podcast provider. And for more information, visit bananiapodcast.com.